Hello and welcome to another episode of P Practical, where I talk about how I ended up building my website 3 times. So obviously my mistakes go up in numeric order. So let's get to it. So the first thing is to share with you is that when building the website for PSM Productions, I had an idea of what I wanted to achieve. However, as I progressed through actually meeting people and getting feedback on the website, it actually evolved. So the first version of the website was completed in December 2024, and it was okay. AI heavily used to put the wording together, to put the brand together, because I was still finding myself, and at the time I wasn't really sure what PSM Productions would become. As we progress in time, I started to get more content, I started to do more shooting, I started to do more photos, etc. And it was quite clear that I wanted to use my own assets, my own images, my own videos. When I saw the stock stuff and templates, I wasn't too impressed. So that was where that second change came from. And by that time I collected a bit more of what people thought of PSM Productions and how potentially people would view myself and how that would have to translate on the website. In the third instance, which is finished last month, it's gone completely stripped back in terms of wording, but also we have found what the PSM sort of culture, etc., is to be, and so that has been part of building it the third time. So how did we build it? So I've touched on assets, and the first thing was to understand what kind of content I wanted on there. So I knew I wanted videos in the first instance, and I'll come back to that. I knew I wanted my own pictures, and I also knew that I wanted somehow my social media to link into it. So that is what we began trying to do. But very quickly, what we realized was that there are limitations in terms of what videos you can put up there, how it would appear, etc. So that was one thing, but also we didn't have many videos to showcase, and actually some of the work I'd done completely removed away from PSM Productions, for example being on the short back and side show. So what I had to quickly understand was what would really actually showcase in very little by way of pictures and videos the business as best as it can, and also how would I put myself in there. So up until a certain point, I didn't have much photos of me doing anything or videos of me doing anything. It was all end product. So that I knew. The next thing was understanding file sizes and what limitations, or not even necessarily limitations, what quality would be output by putting certain sizes of images, whether that's pixel size or whether that's file size, which does make a difference. So in doing this, I learned what an SVG file was. I didn't know what that was. I just heard of PNG and JPEG, and that was how we put photos together. Now what you'll notice is on the website we have pictures on each page, and it's in like a grid system, and I've made it purposefully all jiggly, etc. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to showcase as much images as I could without people having to scroll up and down to find the images. But we also have the gallery as well, which I need to update, which has more pictures if people are interested in doing that. So that's really how we got around how many images we could have, and how we could get around the file size, because I'd basically layered these pictures all together on Canva, mapped it out, and then exported and imported it through the SVG files. And in terms of the videos, not so fortunate, couldn't upload the videos, so instead we've used YouTube links. So the YouTube video is linked in to the website on the homepage, which is the introduction of why I use PSM Productions. And then the other piece we have done is we create a portfolio page, which I'll come into in a minute. But on that page, we've got links to the videos. So again, I've put the picture piece there, and then a direct link into YouTube to watch those videos for those that are relevant. What that enables us to do is to get traffic onto the YouTube site, but also it showcases to people what kind of work we've been into. So I quite like how that works. The next part was to think about what pages to have. Now, the logo, I'm looking to the hoodie, the logo shows film, podcast, stream, and video editing. And so those were the main foundation pages that I wanted to achieve, as well as the homepage. Now the homepage has gone through significant changes, to be honest. There was a lot of context and there was not so much context. Logos, the logo has changed 3 times. So, you know, it was an evolution piece. I'm quite happy with where I've landed now, quite happy with the context on the homepage, but that took a lot of research. That took a lot of looking at other people's websites, competitors in the local area, seeing what works, what doesn't work. And you can get comfort in actually seeing sometimes what you yourself have produced, and whether or not that aligns to people, whether or not it looks better as well. So homepage has gone through significant change. Because the first version of the website didn't have many pictures, the individual pages of film, podcast, stream, and video editing just used to have like 3 pictures, which didn't really showcase a lot, didn't tell a story, didn't tell a journey. So as I progressed, obviously we added those pictures onto it, so it looks a lot better now. For example, I really like the filming page. I really like the podcast page because it showcases different elements of what we do to achieve stuff. Now the next part is that the cameras are the old cameras. We're not using the new cameras in those theses, but it still puts the message across. And if people want to understand the level of work that we put in or what the output is, they can do so. The portfolio page was a page that came in the 3rd iteration of the website. It wasn't something I thought I had to do, if I'm honest, but I had seen other people. Shout out ONG Media, you were the first one to do it, but I had seen that this had worked in that instance, so therefore it kind of made sense to go ahead and do that. So that's what we did, and we had enough projects to showcase, right? That's the other piece. You want to have projects to be able to showcase, outputs that people can see. So I think on total there's about 5 now in the portfolio, and I think it's quite a nice page. Now there's a controversial page which doesn't exist anymore, which was the additional services. So in versions 1 and 2, additional services was a page that showcased if people wanted hosting from myself or someone else, audio technicians, video technicians, because not everyone is able to film by themselves with the equipment. So that was something I had added at that point, but now on reflection I've actually removed that page. So I'm not quite sure it has any relevance, and it actually might be a service that I move away altogether. Now, the next page is the contact us form, which again didn't appear until the 3rd version. Now, the reason why it didn't appear is because I had originally started with a basket type system where people could see upfront pricing for the work, and that's what ran until we got to the 3rd version. Now I've actually removed the prices, so technically it's the 4th version. I did keep a sort of rough guide for price, but I've actually removed it altogether. And the reason why I've done that is because filming and social media is blurred lines. Video editing, people expect that as standard. So what I've now done is put in there that pricing options, you know, basically speak to us, tell us what the project is, use the contact us form, and then we'll price what that looks like. So it has changed. It might not appear as transparent, but I think that's the best thing to do. And that's what, when I looked at the competitors in the area, no one had pricing at all. No one even spoke about it. I've given a description to say, you know, the filming prices as an example includes the lighting that I'm using here, or it might include the microphones, etc. So it gives more scope, and actually if I look at it, the set price that I had, is fair, but actually when you put it in context of how it would actually flow, is that the right thing? So that's what happened there. Other than that, I'm pretty comfortable with the pages. I hate the streaming page, I'm going to be honest. The streaming page doesn't have the Roadcaster, which we now have. It has the old streamer that we had. It just doesn't look nice. It just doesn't look nice. But again, it's one of those case in points. Until you get to the point where you can showcase what the streaming looks like, because I haven't used my equipment to stream someone else. I'm quite adamant I don't want to use myself. I think that's quite easy, although watching today's setup maybe I could. But as we progress, we'll have hopefully some pictures, and then I can use that to replace that. But yeah, in terms of the text on the pages, again, they went through various forms, and now we're on a streamlined approach. We did try to separate the pages in two to kind of go with businesses and content creators, but it just got really messy, really complicated. So now we have it set on a place of, you can read through, you can tell it's, set up for businesses and content creators, and you can take from there what best services work for you. Now, the next thing I've learned, we talked about the file sizes and stuff like that, but the next thing I also learned was that screens are different. So within my setup, I use 2 Apple laptops, an iPad, and actually one of the MacBooks I use is an Air, which is like my go-to for everyday stuff. And my wife, who built the website, also uses a MacBook Air. She built the website on the MacBook Air, but she has a 16-inch screen, and I have a 13-inch screen, I think it is. And the website appears completely different. So what that has taught me is that when I'm picking what I'm doing, I have to factor in how people are going to actually visually see it. So I mainly view websites on the monitors. That's here, this 27 inches. And I do all my sort of work on the 14-inch MacBook Pro that I have. So what I established there is that the images, the website will appear different depending on what screen it is. And that's something that I didn't think about at all. And when we say different, it's not just the actual size and how things are formed together. It actually looks different depending on the browser, and it can look different color-wise as well. So when you're using Apple has a color profile, and also I'm using mainly the editing on the MacBook Pro 14-inch, so the pictures look different in terms of the colors, the vibrancy and stuff like that, and the screen resolution is different between the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air. So over time now, I've started to do a lot of the work on the MacBook Air because that seems to be more aligned to what people are using as standard. So I can visually check how the colors look, how videos look, how lighting looks, etc. So that was something I hadn't factored. And also you have to think about mobile devices. So how does it flow on the mobile phone? Because when we started doing, for example, the portfolio page, it was image, text, and it just didn't flow right. So we had to make sure that on the website it flowed correctly, and on the mobile it looked readable as well. So it was about how we actually placed the elements on the page, which brings me to the next part, which is the platform that you use. So I use Shopify. Now the reason that I went with Shopify was because, like I said, I wanted the pricing element of it, and Shopify allows that, so you can have the basket and people could add up, and that's how originally I wanted to do. I wanted it to be open pricing, people to put services in the basket, get a total, and I applied like discounts based on how many hours, etc. So that was fine for that, but nobody used it, and now I am stuck on Shopify. And the reason I say stuck on Shopify is because it's quite a restrictive platform. So you don't get the freedom and flexibility of what I've heard you can get in WordPress. So at some point, we are going to try and move PSN Productions website onto WordPress to find out about that flexibility. But some of the trouble that we've come up against is things like The format of the text, trying to move it to certain places so it reads well. You'll find on the website we have like odd sentences that just don't flow right. The alignment of paragraphs, you don't get much flexibility on that. The images, is quite strict, like you have to resize things and you end up losing sometimes elements of your picture in trying to do so. So it hasn't been an enjoyable experience. Now, I've been led to believe that Shopify is meant to be simple. It does not appear to be simple or logical to me, but I don't know if that's because I've taken on too many system learnings in a short period of time, which could be explaining why I feel that way. But the first thing I would say is when you're looking at what website you're going to create, have in mind how you want things to flow, because from what I understand on WordPress, some of the things I wanted to do with the videos would be able to do, and you can't do it on Shopify. It's not really built for multimedia. It's built for shopping, it's built for selling shoes, and it's a selling site, auctions, stuff like that. So just make sure you understand how you want to map out your website. I mapped it out, but I mapped it out in terms of a flow, not necessarily what was going to go on there. So that probably could have saved me a lot of hassle if I had done it the right way. The other thing I would say is don't just look at the templates, because when you see the templates, they look really nice, and I was like blown away. I was like, wow, I could do this, this, and this. But actually, when you come to put your own content in it, it doesn't flow as well. And things like your branding, so you have to understand what colors you're using. That's quite important. So I have a very distinct color palette that I have, which is the burgundy, white, and gold. You have to think about how that translates to these templates, because it doesn't always look very good at all. But you can still create products that look good. And I remember in the very first 2 versions of the website, the PSM logo that appears on the top of the page was burgundy, and it was the old logo, and it used to annoy me so much, so much. But I had to make the decision to actually just invert it and make it white background with burgundy text, and it flows so nicely now. So you'll keep on learning what works and what doesn't work for your brand. But yeah, quite important to think about. So that's the end of this. So just to share my sort of learnings and reflections when building this. So the first thing is, could I have waited to build a website? Did I have to be so quick in putting it together? I had social media, I had Instagram, we had YouTube, and I had business cards. So I reflect back and I think, could the website have waited? Like, did it actually do anything? No, didn't generate any business. Second thing is, when did I use it? So to be honest, when showing people out and about who have noticed the hoodie, or just talking about doing it in general, like trying to cold call if you like, being able to bring up the website was a good thing. It got people's interest, and it did showcase to people that the equipment being used, that was the main thing people always said to me, like, wow, the equipment, when seeing the website, or how clean the website looked, kind of gave them a trust in what we might be doing. The third thing is, Shopify was a big mistake. Hands up, big mistake, but it's all a learning. And it's a costly mistake because you have to pay for the services monthly. So yeah, would we have been able to create something a bit more creative, a bit more multimedia heavy, and have that running? Don't know. Next thing is knowing the brand. I knew what the brand was, I knew the color scheme, but obviously the logo changed 3 times whilst it was on the website. So I'm happy with what I landed now, but again, probably should have nailed that on. But I don't know if I just kind of went through the process and saw it and just didn't like it, and I'm happy with what we landed now. It's more clean. It works good on the videos in the top bit. It works good on clothing. So yeah, I think it's worked out now. I didn't have much content to put on the website, so 3 pictures per page and a load of text just looked awful. So I think that's one thing I would say. Definitely make sure you've got something, and make sure you have yourself. So one of the things I have learned is that part of the brand is you as an individual, and it needs to be showcased. People need to know what it is. That's part of what this is as well as P Practical, is showing the face behind the brand and showing how we've got to where we are. And the next thing, just have a look at the websites of the businesses that you're trying to take money from. I directly looked at like who had 5-star ratings, how many 5-star ratings, and then looked up their website to see, was there something that I was missing? Is there something that I need to think about in terms of drawing people in? Was the website even referenced? So yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, hopefully you've got something from this. These are kind of the things that I learned. These are things that I think if somebody had told me, I would have factored in, I would have thought about, and I would have probably saved a lot of time. I think that's the key thing here. There has been quite a bit of time spent on the website in terms of building it and then getting the content together. Like, you know, getting your assets is one thing, but it's not just like click and drag into Shopify or somewhere. You have to upload it, you have to resize it, you have to crop it. There's many things you have to do, and when you've got as many pictures as I have, it can be quite difficult. So yeah, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed this episode, and catch you on the next one. Peace.